and we're on
Hello, I'm
Instagram.
Eagle.
All right.
We're on live on YouTube. Hello, I'm Eagle. Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram. And this is fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 507. Hopefully, you guys have had a great Sunday, end of amazing weekend. I've got a great guest for you tonight. Another great person in the cannabis industry, Sweet Oil, Sweet Sweet CO2 oil on Instagram. I'm sorry, sir. Forrest, you want to tell us where we can find you and how you're doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. You can find us at sweetco2oil.com and sweet_CO2 on Instagram. And I am the founder and owner of Sweet CO2 Oil, located in Durango, Colorado. We've been making supercritical CO2 oil since, I guess we started in like 2012. We've been licensed since 2014, 2015, and we're coming up on re-upping our license for the 8th year. So that's where we are right now. And yeah, so check us out. I got into the industry mostly because in 2008, the Obama administration issued the memo, and in Colorado we had medical cannabis had been legal for a while, but nobody was really going for it. Nobody had any shops open, and some folks were growing in their basement, but really the cannabis trade was alive and well. The supersonic, hydroponic, Southwest chronic was alive and well. And so, the memo came out, and the economy was kind of in a tough spot. And a lot of people started jumping in and being like, hey, I've never been in the industry before, but I got a license down at the city building, and I'm going to start growing dope. And a lot of the guys in the trade, they didn't want to jump out into the open. They'd been living in the closet so long that it kind of seemed like it might be some type of shakeout. So we decided that we would open up the kind of follow the gold rush story, and we'd open up the supply yard, start selling the picks and shovels for the gold rush. So we opened up Durango Hydroponics and Lighting. Myself and two friends that I'd known for decades. And we were the third shop to open in town. So there were two other stores selling hydroponic equipment. And we started showing up to work on time every day. And people understood that we knew how to behave in a hydroponic store, as far as what names were used and how many cameras were in there and how people felt about the industry back then. So we got a following pretty quick, but we had people coming in, they didn't know how to grow. So we started helping them. And next thing you know, we had some people growing some really nice product, similar to what you have going in the back there. Looks like you probably have some live soil, and you're growing in some tents, looks like, with some HPSs. They look like they're in good budding stage. So nice work. We started teaching folks mostly organic hydroponics. Small space, again, double end HPSs, metal halide for your 24-hour light, and cloning. So eventually these guys are growing, they're up and running. We're about a year in. Nobody's getting their door kicked in. The sheriffs are letting it go, and they put a moratorium on the cannabis licenses in La Plata County and Durango itself. So they moratoriumed all the cannabis licenses for grows and for retail stores. And we were just, selling equipment like crazy and still managing our trades on the side. And these guys came in one day who I'd taught how to grow, and they were talking to me about their concentrates they were making and how they were just so impressed with the ganja I'd helped them grow, because it made the best oil ever. And I wasn't really too familiar with that. I was familiar with tumbling keef and pressing some hash and doing some bubble resin, but I had never seen this, the blasting with the butane. So I went out to their shop and checked it out, and it caught me off guard. Honestly, I didn't, we were selling this material as organic medicine, and they were blasting it with butane and turning around selling it as medicine. And I was like, whoa, man, like that's a known carcinogen, and go for it. They're like, man, it sells like hotcakes. This is the best shit ever. We're so stoked. We're gonna go to the moon with this. And and the more I thought about it, is we had people coming into the store who were really having great results, moving away from Oxycontin and some of the other prescription drugs that they had been on, and finding cannabis as a solution or a way to mitigate their pain or their hunger or their, they're dealing with whatever illness they might have had. It was starting to keep me up at night. We're, thinking that we were helping people smoke a known carcinogen. And this is before, there was no testing at all. There wasn't potency, there wasn't terpenes, there wasn't residual solvents, there weren't any fungus tests, and none of that. The labs weren't even open yet. And so I started looking into, cleaner extraction methods, and I found CO2. There were a couple of companies making machines that were small enough that we could actually, put 5 or 10 pounds of material in there. And we went on a couple of road trips and visited some trailers and zircons where guys were operating in the trade. And we did a couple of runs. We came up with some oil. We were kind of impressed with it, and we were able to keep the flavor. We were able to keep the integrity of the plant without really blasting it with the known carcinogen, just using CO2 at supercritical levels. So, there weren't any YouTube videos. We basically bootstrapped ourselves through this, and it took us, we got back and we were like, we should look into getting a license. And the one license that was available was the manufacturing license. So I figured that was a sign from God. And I went and got one. It took us 18 months to get our license because our local jurisdiction was really pushing back. And, what I really needed wasn't necessarily an attorney, but more of a land use planner. And I didn't, I didn't even understand how little I knew about getting that license and that permit done in our local place, the Class 2 use permit, and then adding on to it a cannabis license, the inspections and the hoops they were just trying to find to make us jump through, and the fees they were just trying to tack on to everything they could, from fire inspections to health inspections to septic and putting in sidewalks and all these crazy things they were trying to latch on. But we got on right before a lot of that stuff got too crazy, but it still took us about 18 months to get our license. But in that 18 months, Eagle, we were able to, practice, because we were really flying by the seat of our pants, and we were reaching out to California. We were reaching out to all the people we had known in the industry in the trade for years. And they were kind of kind of going into these same spaces. And, we're going up to the Front Range, which is what I call where Denver is, which is Denver's about 6.5 hours away from here, over 3 to 5 passes, over 10,000 feet by car. And it's about an hour flight. But we got up there, we got some really good insight. The industry was still really open. Everybody was, if you were licensed and you had a badge, people were ready to share and be like, we can't make it fast enough. Here's how we're doing it, and the next thing you know, we were making some pretty good oil, and we were getting on the shelves, getting ready to get on the shelves next to Open and Evo Labs, and, the biggest players in the state at that time. So looking at their products, we were noticing that they were cutting they were diluting their product with polyglycol and other methods of dilution to try and get the oil to go further, to kind of keep the potency closer to what flower was, more trending to be. And we just sort of, that didn't sit real well with us either. The whole idea we had was to try and stay as respectful as possible to the plant. This plant's been on every continent save Antarctica as long as we can see. We can see this plant's medicinal purposes and all types of ancient cultures and rituals and medicinal healings for eons of time. Our own genetic code has cannabinoid receptors built into us. I mean, you, me, all of us. So as cannabis has really benefited me my entire life, it has created opportunities for me that would not have existed had I not been exposed to it at a young age and been able to embrace it the way I was. So I felt very strongly that we needed to try and keep it as pure as possible, and to dilute it after we'd spent all this time getting quality trim and some flower, and reducing it and making sure that we had as little residual solvent and as little any other type of exterior chemical in our oil. We just decided to start putting it straight into the vape cartridges as it was, selling it straight in syringes as they were. So soon after we started that, at that point in time, you could sell everything you get your hands on. And right around then, as we were getting our license in that 18 months, we had our, recreational came online and it opened up. So while we were getting our license for medical, the rec license was really easy to just add on to it. So we added that onto it, and we started in both divisions of the industry. And so, the trade wasn't as interested in vape pens and oils as the industry. So all of a sudden, we were trying to find cartridges and glass syringes, and we were locating them in China, and they were showing up, and we were getting them out as quick as we could, and we were designing our packaging and moving as quick as we could to make sure we were compliant, and writing our SOPs and getting inspected and hiring people and getting more equipment and getting more. And it was just really busy. And then the testing requirements started coming out. So we had to start testing for potency. And so we started testing for potency, and we were getting these amazing numbers, in the 60s and 70s and 80s sometimes. If we started trying to make what we called SAP back then, which was sort of a CO2 shatter. And we were able to do it, but our byproduct was like a 30% oil, and the sap wasn't as popular as shatter. And so we worked with that for a little while, but we were having this great luck with potency. And then the whole terpene kind of craze came around 2016. And we started trying to figure out how we were going to, deal with this terpene situation in our testing lab here. Luckily, we had a testing lab open in our little town here in the southwest corner of Colorado. Otherwise, we would have had to send all our tests to Denver, and that would have taken a lot more time, cost a lot more money, et cetera. So our local testing lab, Aurum Labs, Aurum like Latin for gold, AURUM, Aurum Labs. They're a great facility and good friends of ours, great business relationship again for 7 or 8 years. We would kind of bend their ear as they were sort of the scientists in the industry that we knew who definitely would be able to chat with. And I was like, we really want to try and increase our terpene profile. We found these, research items where we can take strains and we can get these aftermarket botanical terpenes and maybe mix them in and get a stronger flavor. And they just all kind of looked at me and they're like, have you not have we not shown you your terpene test? Because we've got a new machine testing terpenes for us. And you guys have some of the strongest terpene results of any of the oil we test statewide. And I was like, dang. So we started looking at that, and it reeled us all the way back again to our core, well, where we started, which was let's not fuck with the oil here, right? Let's treat this as almost a sacred product. Let's be as respectful to it as we can. So, next thing you know, the terpenes are in the bottom of the cabinet. I think they're still there, right? 6 years later, 7 years later, we haven't ever used them again. And we did experiment with them. We did make some really flavorful stuff. We did notice that it definitely changed the buzz, as you would. It definitely had a different effect of it would not just the flavor, but even the headband is what I remember using most, and it was almost sweating when we made it too strong with the terpene profile that we knew we were trying to match. And so yeah, we moved away from that, and we continued growing and trying to control our growth and not grow too fast where we would lose our quality. We started lining up direct supply chains with China, where we were ordering our cartridges direct. They started offering glass cartridges. We were we were the first oil company that I knew of that wasn't diluting. About 6 or 8 months after we started, Open came out with a pure oil. We were the first cartridge company I saw who started using glass cartridges. And now that's all you can get. When we started, they were all plastic. And the plastic would actually leach some of the THC out of there, because the bonding agents. And so getting into plastics was great, or getting away from plastics was great. We started, buying all of our power to run our equipment from a solar farm. We started using as many recyclable materials as we could, because as I'm sure you've seen, the amount of plastics and the amount of packaging that's required by the state and the counties is insane. And then they don't even allow us to, at least in Colorado, you can't take your drams back and have them refilled. You can't take your drams back and throw them into a recycling bin at your dispensary. They're too afraid that there might be a nugget in there and somebody might get a free nugget, and God knows the children might get stoned and all that kind of bullshit. So we just figured what we could do is be proactive and try and use, second grade cardboard, try and use soy-based ink, try and use second use plastics as much as we could. And we currently work with some recycling programs where they do have drop-offs that are like one way only, and they take them and wash them, and then they reuse the drams, and our pens and batteries are fully recyclable as long as you drop them into, take the battery off and drop the glass and stainless steel into your multi-source recycling, and put your battery in your battery recycling, if our clients hopefully are following that. And we've been rocking and rolling ever since. We've had plenty of competition show up since then. Concentrates have been one of the fastest growing subsections of the market over the last 5 years, going from, in the single digits to in the 30% of sales in dispensaries. And we started, doing some consulting, and we just had a lot of people showing up and asking us how to do it. And then we started saying, maybe we should get a scope of work, and what are you looking to really try to do? And we can kind of figure out a way, if we're going to spend this much time with you, to get compensated. So I think we do have pretty favorable rates, and we do have packages we can put together for anybody who's out there, maybe in a state that's getting ready to go live. If you want to skip some of the pitfalls that we ran into, where you look up and you're like, well, there's a few $1,000s wasted. we could have avoided that. We can definitely try and help you avoid those. But we've also had, issues with China, issues with shipping, issues with the changing of labeling and packaging requirements by the state. For example, we had, let's say we ordered 10,000 boxes to put our cartridges in. And at that point, when we ordered them, we were required to say, this product contains marijuana, keep away from children. And 3 or 4 months after those packages arrived and we're shipping them out, they say, okay, in 3 months, we changed it. It needs to say, keep out of reach of children. And we're like, okay, well, so can we put a sticker over that? Because we've got, 5,000 boxes left over here. And they're like, no, that sticker might get lost and the children might be at risk. And look, I've got 2 kids. My kids have helped assemble all kinds of packaging for me that was for the cannabis industry, nowhere near any cannabis. And, they bought their first Xbox with it. Okay. So instead of paying somebody else to, fold these boxes and put them together where they could hold the cartridge, my boys did it while we were watching, I don't know, whatever age appropriate television they were watching. And then they bought their first Xbox because I was like, I'm paying you guys 10 cents a box to put it together. And so I just want to make it, my kids, we try and educate them as much as possible about what's going on in the industry and not keep them in the dark. And we're definitely not on the just say no to drugs thing like I grew up with, where, the first thing they tell you is not to try that. That's the first thing you want to try. So, it's just sort of the way what I grew up with was a lot less awareness by the elders of what we were facing as we ran into it as kids. And but anyway, so I just don't want to come across like I'm not concerned with keeping people of youth wait until they develop their own ability to make a decision about what they're going to use for their medicinal or recreational use. So sorry, I got sideways there, but anyway, save the, kids might, somebody might misread it and instead of keeping it away from them, they won't keep it out of reach for them. And that kind of stuff just, oh God, it still drives me crazy. Right now we're dealing with regulation, and it's unbelievable how much regulation we have, and some of it's good. I'm not gonna lie. We got our first, I'm not gonna hide the fact that I was against things like the amount of cameras we had to have. I was against the things like the Metrc tracking system. And for the reasons of, I was like, what do you mean we have to have cameras around here? Nobody wants to have a bunch of cameras like their boss is sitting there spying on them all the time. And look, I don't have time to spy on anybody, right? What it is we've got cameras all over the shop and people are going to behave better, right? They're not going to do things that they don't want to have done, haven't seen on camera. You see that kind of behavior change in most establishments around the country. Metrc, which is the marijuana enforcement tracking coordination system, they track the cannabis that we interact with, sometimes down to the thousandth of a fucking gram, to the thousandth, right? I get deliveries of packages where they took it down to the thousandth of a gram, and it just makes it a pain in the ass, right? I'm like, come on, keep it in the single digits, man. It's fine, 0.5. But some folks are, they'll take it that far, and that's fine. But the beauty of the Metrc system now is that we don't lose anything. We keep such solid track of all that product. We know exactly where it is. And as a business owner, that actually turned into a benefit. So I'm like, we know exactly where everything is. A lot of microbreweries probably make as much beer as Coors and Budweiser spill in a year, right? And so we're aware of how much we spill all the time. And that's really what we are. We're still a little microbrewery. We're still a little micro extraction company, because you got the opens and you've got the, these other much, bigger establishments who are just pushing stuff through and making it into distillate and diluting it with whatever product they want, they need to cut it down with so that it'll flow through a vape pen. And we're just not doing that. We're still trying to hold on to as much as we can that, that Sam Adams, that, Ska Brewing is our local brewery that we really reach out to and compare ourselves with as far as where we are in this industry of behemoths and what we want to do to grow. And like I said, we're coming up on our 8th year. I feel like I've just been talking the whole time here, Eagle. What you got any questions for me?
I'm just kind of waiting. I like to give my guests their room to speak. There's so many other shows where I see the guests trying to get their point across, and then the host is cutting them off every 2 seconds, trying to take it in another direction. I like to hear the story organically. You know what I mean? Let it flow out, and then whenever I get in, I can get in. But shit, there's been episodes where I haven't even gotten in the 4 hours, and I'm totally cool with that. I sit here like, just listening to the story. It's all good. It's all about, like I said in the beginning, showing the cannabis community other great people that are out there doing quality job, quality work, and are passionate about what they do. In this case, no, it's a business as usual night. I can see the passion in your the way you speak about your products and everything else. So, do you source your own material? I mean, how do you find oil for the sweet oil, or a product for the sweet oil rather? I'm sorry.
Our raw material. So we've got a number
Yeah.
of grows that we prefer, but we're always looking for new grows, and we try them. And we'll usually, we have a list of requirements that we ask for, that we try to keep things as organic as possible. That can be hard for some folks in a hydro scenario to manage that. And then they have to meet certain pesticide requirements. And because of the testing, as the testing's gotten more and more intense, that's made it easier for us to source material. But we tend to lean toward indoor, maybe light depth greenhouse, but usually we like to find quality dry trim or hand trim material. Lands in at pretty low percentage of humidity, and we'll even dry it out from there before we process it, just because the water is going to come out at some point. But we don't ask people to show up with stuff that's so dry that it's just super crispy, because then we tend to lose a lot of the terpene and profile at that point too, as it starts to degrade if it gets too dry anyway. So we try and keep it as fresh as we can. We try and keep it cold when we're not using it, but we don't have large stockpiles of it. We go through, 30 to 50 pounds a week. And again, we're just a small operation, we would love to scale. It's hard to find people who can see the vision that I want to make happen. And so we're plugging away in that direction. But, that's how we normally source our material, is people, there's distributors out there, or middlemen out there who say, I know all the grows, and I know I've got contacts who are looking to either buy it for the retail store or buy it for their extraction facility. And they'll send us lists. And then we've got grows that we work with on a regular basis who say, here's what we have this week, or here's what we'll have for next week. Here's how many pounds. Here's what the strains are, what the potencies tests are. And usually those potencies are for the flower. They don't usually test the trim. And it tends to be that the trim will actually sometimes test higher, but it depends. So we don't accept anything that's been tumbled. We'll accept stuff that's old, that's been kept cold. But normally we're getting our stuff pretty fresh from known sources. and finding a new source. We'll usually buy, 5 to 10 pounds and do a few runs and see what the quality looks like. Because, you'll get material and you'll look at it and you'll be like, this is going to be awesome. And you'll run it and it just has a bad color or it tests really low in potency and it's surprising. And then you get some other material, you look at it, you're like, looks a little brown. I don't know if this is going to come out. And you run it and you're like, fuck me, you're running it. This isn't some of the best oil we've got, And so we tend to not judge the product until we've run it for that reason. And we don't accept any trim that's wet trim through the twister machines, mostly because people tend to use the spray on oil to keep the twister from being sticky. And that just adds oil that we don't need. We tend to really like the hand trim and the Green Brothers trimming machine, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with that yet, but I'm imagining you probably are, Eagle. Know the Green Bros?
No, I have.
So Green Bros makes a trimming machine that you'll strip your water leaves and your really large sugar leaves, maybe hang your stalks for till they're say 80% cured, and then bucket and put it through the trim, the Green Brothers. It's really good at keeping all the crow's feet off. It gets a great finished product of trim, and it shaves it up like, it is porn star. Makes it look really good, and it does it really quickly. They have a couple of different sizes, so I would definitely recommend if you can. We rent them at our shop. A lot of other hydro stores might do the same thing, but yeah, Green Brothers trimmers are pretty sweet, and they'll save you a bunch of time, and they won't. And I use a twister for years, but the spray on oil was something that just kills us. And then the vacuum, pulling that heavy pull through there, I think you lose a lot of good quality keef material. That's really what we're pulling most of our product off of, is that sugar leaf and those keefs that end up just stuck on the side of that bag. Have you used the twisters, of course?
Hell no, I'm a hand trimmer, brother. I'm a hand trimmer.
You're a hand
I always
trimmer.
have
Okay.
Probably always will be for as long as I can manage it.
Right. As long as you can manage, it's when you're taking down those multiple hundreds that you got to get stuff through there quick, and you might not have enough people, but I respect that. I'm glad you're using the hand trim, because that tends to be our hands down favorite, is the material that we see being hand trimmed. It's not abused. And so good on you. Yeah, that's where we mostly get our material from.
I appreciate the fact that after all, getting the oil company started, that you're still running the hydroponic shop, still selling the picks and shovels, man. I appreciate that, man. In the beginning, man, a lot of people in the beginning, even because I've sold seeds. I used to sell seeds for the Subcool TGA today, and people
Nice.
are, even in this day and age, were afraid to fucking get seeds through the mail. And most of my sales were hand to hand. I didn't mind jumping. I could understand, the paranoia of it all, both putting money in the mail and waiting, or vice versa, just waiting for stuff to come in the mail,
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me I actually loved it, meeting the people firsthand. Like I said, hearing their story, all that. It was pretty awesome. But I couldn't believe that in this day and age, how paranoid people still were to have shit sent to their house. So I appreciate the people that weren't afraid to open their doors in the beginning of all this, and provide a place that we could go in, buy equipment, materials, all that stuff. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, it meant a lot. It still means a lot to a lot of us growers, man. You know, shit. I don't want when I need stuff. I need stuff. I don't want to go out or wait for it to be delivered. I run out and gotta get that shit.
yeah. Or when thing. Yep. So here's my dog. This is a Cosmo. He's a little dog, and he likes to come bug me sometimes. But I'm not gonna let him. I'm not gonna let him hang out while we talk. Um, yeah, I used to just have big dogs, you know, and then we had kids, and then we got a little dog, and now I'm like, little dogs are all right. I didn't used to feel like that when I was younger. I was like, what do you have a little dog for? That doesn't make any sense, you know. Now, you know, you look over and you're like, good Lord, I got a little dog. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, so I'm not at the grow store. I want to make that really clear. We've got I've got a partner who runs it, and we've got a couple of employees who've been there for, I mean, they might be coming on 6 years now. So they've been there for a long time. And they run a great shop. You know, I will step in when they're like, hey, we've got this issue, or we've got a fire that needs to be put out. And we have those almost never at this point. But we are also experiencing the general hydroponics, the main our main distributors that we've been buying from for years are starting to go directly to the big growers. So our big commercial accounts, they're being approached by our reps. And I can totally understand that, right? They're like, we're just going to go directly to them. We're going to save them some money, and we'll just drop ship directly to them. But for the hobby grower, or for the grower of, say 25 lights or less, that isn't licensed, that still needs to grow their 99 plant count, or their hemp farm, we provide to them a lot of service. And if they have a bulb that fails and they don't want to, and they need a bulb right away, you can't be like, well, we're going to leave that room dark for a week, or we're able to provide that service to them as they need it. If their ballast goes down, we can rewire their ballast and get it running for them again, or we can get them a new piece of glass, or find them that insulated ductwork that they can't locate, and keep them up and running. And if they're not buying 55-gallon drums of juice, they're buying it in the 6-gallon jugs, or the 1-gallon jugs maybe. So I always loved the hydro store. I wanted to have my small personal batch this summer, and one of my old friends told me he had some clones cut for me. We were getting ready to have them knee high by July, and I went to the store to pick up 25 bags of 707 and go home and do my special mix with it. And they're like, we sold those, Jones. You were late picking them up, and we're out. And I'm like, well, all right. I guess we're going to go with the ocean forest. And they're like, we don't have the ocean forest either. You can choose from the black gold. And I was like, dang, black gold, we're going all the way back. Here we go. So, but it came out fine. Again, good additives and good mitigated control of your product, as I'm sure Eagle, is the best way to get to the don't mess with it stage, and let the sun do its work. So, but it was great to see how many people during the pandemic really came to the cannabis industry. They stopped being tested, they were out of work, and they got back into project growing again. It's super fun to see that happen.
I love to see people growing. I think everybody should grow, to be honest with you. There's just power in numbers. The more people we can get on board right now, the harder it's going to be for any bad legislation, or just to get it completely legal across the board. So I'm kind of curious, as a person that deals in oil, How bad was, because I heard you mention kind of cartridges a little bit, the quality of cartridges. How bad was the whole cartridge scare, a few years back for business? Were you able to I mean, how, look, tell me about it.
Well, we felt it, we definitely felt it, but because we had been, pushing our whole image was we don't have any additives. We are licensed. Our stores kept selling our product. We definitely saw a significant downturn for a good 6, maybe 12 weeks, where we were like, dang, these numbers are down from last year, and that hurt, but what we did is we kind of doubled down on our Instagram, on our marketing push with our bud tenders, and reminding them that when people are coming in and they're looking for a vape pen, that, here's one that you've known for years. Here's one that produces quality product that's never put anything secondary into their oil, and you can trust this. And in the end, we started selling more at the end of that 12 weeks because people knew they could trust what they were getting from us. The vape scare, we still talk about it, and there's still litigation that's coming down where we can't even ship empty vape cartridges with DHL or with FedEx or with UPS from China to the US. Once they come off air freight or even off of a container ship, those couriers won't carry them for us. We have to find private labels, super small distributors to get us those products here from China, because federal regulations prohibit, again, mostly because of the idea of keeping kids from smoking cigarettes, or youth from smoking cigarettes, probably adults from smoking cigarettes too, and also not vaping, because vaping's become sort of the backdoor for tobacco use as well. And people can do as they choose, and they're going to do as they choose. And I smoked Pall Malls for a number of years before I gave that up so I could ride my bike further, and thought I was going to die one day riding my bike. But because of those regulations, they're spilling over onto us, where we're a licensed, regulated industry, and we're not selling to anybody under 21. We've since dropped our medical license, I guess, is where I can say you can buy medical cannabis in Colorado if you have a condition that your medical provider gives you a prescription for. So like if you have epileptic seizures and you're a 16-year-old child, then you can, or a 12-year-old child, your parents can get a prescription, and you can actually find a way to administer that to your kids to help them, reduce their amount of seizures or normalize their life, instead of pumping them through with a lot more other pharmaceuticals that are less effective, cost more, and have much more detrimental effects. But the medical side of the industry, right around the same time the vape crisis happened, when we were weighing the numbers of how much we were selling to medical stores versus how much we were selling to recreational stores to help people who are looking for a discount with their medical card, who aren't looking for stronger dosage, they'll just give them a bigger discount. And that way they have a larger selection, but it's not necessarily always as high as a dose, because you can get a much higher dosage in the medical side of the store, as far as like how much chocolate you can buy. You can buy 1,000 milligram bottles or bars of chocolate, as opposed to 100 milligram bars of chocolate on the recreational side. Does that make sense?
It does, but it's kind of shitty. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
I
And
think
it
if
changes.
you want 1,000, you should be able to get it, either way.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So, we voted in Colorado to have cannabis regulated like alcohol. and it is not regulated like alcohol. It is not taxed like alcohol. Right now, they're trying to raise the tax on cannabis to, geez, I just did a TikTok on this the other day. They want to take it up to 20% for the state tax on cannabis. Alcohol tax, the state tax is like under 2%. And that doesn't include your local jurisdiction taxes, which in some places are 25%, right? So at the end of the day, you're paying 45% tax on your cannabis, and it's just driving that price up, which then encourages the cannabis trade, because people are like, I can get just as good a product, that's maybe not, it's obviously not tested, it obviously doesn't have some of the regulations behind it, but they're going to save all kinds of money there. They might not have the selection, they might not have as much to choose from, but those higher taxes that they're using to fill the shortcomings of their poor budgeting are, they're just, milking the cannabis industry, trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip, and so there's our first thing, right? Is taxes. We are not being taxed like alcohol. We are being radically taxed, much overtaxed, than alcohol is. Now that changes when you get to people who are like with the stills, depending on the size of your still, depending on the size of your brewery, that also you will be paying a higher amount of tax. But I'm talking about more on the retail side, right? Me personally, I don't pay any tax. I don't pay a retail tax. I don't pay a excise tax, because I'm in the middle. I'm a manufacturer. In the alcohol, in the world of alcohol, as a manufacturer, you do pay a tax on the size of your production methods, but we don't have that yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes soon as they can figure out that they're not getting that out of us. But on the other hand, the other way we're not regulated like alcohol, and I'll just keep ranting on here. You keep poking me like this, so I'll go on forever. Next thing you know, you'll be like, Forrest, it's 4 a.m, you're still talking. But you can go into an alcohol store and be like, I'm buying everything. And they'll be like, cool, we'll close for the rest of the week. But you go into the dispensaries, and they're like, oh no, you can only buy an ounce at a time, and then you got to go back out to your car, and then you can come back in and buy another ounce, and then you got to go back out to your car, and then you got to come back in, and then after we sell you 3 of those for a day, you got to go down the street to the next dispensary, and if you come back in an hour and a half, then we can do it again. And you're like, that makes no sense, right? Like, you can go into a store and buy 25, 100 cases of beer at a time, and all they're going to do is say thank you, right? That's all they're going to do. They'll be like, yeah, we'll sell you everything we have. But cannabis, nope, they're not doing it that way. You'll notice I call it cannabis. We used to call it, ganja and dope, and but as the movement becomes more professional, I believe that using the term cannabis helps legitimize it. I think it helps people not have the fear that's inside it, and some of the undeserved affiliations of negativity with marijuana, right? As sort of like, reefer madness and all that kind of bullshit that happened, and associating marijuana with with the cartels or other types of illicit behavior, where cannabis tends to have, there's a bit of a movement in Colorado, call it cannabis. And even for people who are trying to say, look, I use cannabis because it helps me sleep, it gives it more of a medicinal it just has a better ring to it than marijuana, because marijuana has been so driven into our brain and into our culture as this negative evil thing, where it just isn't. You don't have people who take 10 bong hits and then go do crazy, stupid, violent things. It just doesn't happen. I've seen plenty of people do unsmart things when they're smoking too much, or they've done too many bong hits, but it usually does not involve hurting anyone else. or anything else. It usually is something that's completely benign and more humorous, or just poor decision that maybe hurt themselves more than anyone else, you know. And so I just yeah, so I tend to call it cannabis as much as possible, and then I call it the dark market instead of calling it the black market. I like to call it the cannabis trade, and the legal market I like to call it the cannabis industry. And that way, again, you know, we can kind of alleviate ourselves from and have that separation of, you know, because the trade, there's a professional network out there of people who are not gun-toting violent criminals who are actually just, they're making a living doing that and that's the trade they know. That's the way they know how to do it, and that's what they're doing. And so I think it takes away some of that inherent assumed violence and negativity. If we can work away from that, I think it'll help us all get further in our quest to have cannabis removed from the Schedule 1 regulations and open up the federal borders, or the state borders, to federal transportation, and allow us to have distribution centers and allow us to distribute cannabis like alcohol and regulate it and tax it like alcohol, and open up that industry to the point where we can actually see the shift from alcohol to cannabis and the reduction of the shattering of lives, right? That alcohol can have on people, the negative effects and the turmoil that alcohol can cause are so severe, and the addiction to alcohol, the alcoholism, and the long-term effects of it, that you just, and maybe it's because we haven't had cannabis legal long enough and we don't have the time to study it, but I just have a really hard time believing that cannabis is anywhere near as detrimental as alcohol. And I love drinking alcohol, right? So I don't want to misspeak there. I'm a freaking leadership member of an alcohol drinking club. All right. So just we make that clear. I'm not on some horse being like alcohol's bad and marijuana is good. I'm like, I like them both. Okay. So and everything has their time and place, right? Like we don't smoke while we're at work. We're dealing with high pressure equipment. We're dealing with volatile material. We're dealing with valuable product, right? So when you're off work, you know, do whatever you want, smoke all you want. We have manager samples that we can legally distribute to our team, and we do that at every chance we can on a regular basis because we're only allowed to do it so often. So we stick to a regimen to that to make sure that, you know, our team can sample the product that we're proud of, but not on the job, not on the clock. And I grew up on that, you know, work is work and play is play. Drinking on the job, smoking on the job. Now, here's an actual interesting piece of news that I was reporting on just last week, and that New York State has passed legislation that for most jobs, employers are not allowed to test for cannabis use. Now, that doesn't mean you can smoke weed on the job. It just means that they can't test you before you get employed there and say, oh, there's marijuana in your bloodstream, so you can't work here anymore. And they also can't say, oh, you dropped a hammer on your foot and you broke your toe, but we're going to drug test you and you have marijuana in your system, so you're fired and you don't get any workman's compensation. And it's because they're recognizing the cannabis stays in your bloodstream for that 30 to 45, some people 60 days. And it doesn't mean that you were under the influence of cannabis at the time you drop that hammer on your foot, and so they're removing that, right? And so that's another hack against the wall that is keeping the use of cannabis down. Now, and again, I'm not saying that truck drivers should be able to blaze, big joints while they're hauling multiple tons of freight on the highway at 60 miles an hour. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's good for the people who do want to use cannabis, who are using it responsibly, that they can't be fired from their job for something that happened when they weren't at work, right? So, yeah, I'm tangenting again. Forgot where we were.
So we were talking about being able to have cannabis in your system at work. And, I'm still pushing here in my state. We're not there. So in my state, I still suggest everybody to get that medical license. At least if you had the medical license, to renew the license versus letting it fall aside and just going, oh, I'm good now because it's rec. No, you had protections before under that license. So you should kind of keep it. Moreover, I've said this a lot, is as medical cannabis was pushing this forward, there was all these cards being pushed. Oh, cannabis helps with this, cannabis helps with this. And there was interest and funding because the numbers were going up and up and up. Well, if cards start to dwindle, well, then interest kind of falls aside, and so does funding for this much needed research. So I'm still kind of keep your card. You know what
I
I
like
mean?
that. I like that. That's a really good point, Eagle. Because I think you're absolutely right there. The number of symptoms that people were reporting that they were finding relief or help with relief from, not a cure, but relief from their symptoms, that the list grew exponentially once that people were allowed to say what their symptom was and how cannabis helped it. And I think you're absolutely right. That gives more validity and more options for research, and therefore hopefully more funding. But the hemp that they use, that they grow out in Kentucky they keep saying they're going to allow more places to grow hemp, or I'm sorry, grow cannabis, so that they can do testing. And I tend to accidentally say that when I talk about the U.S. facility testing, because they basically grow hemp, and then they say, okay, and we'll test this as marijuana. And they're just recently starting to allow the testing facilities to go into medical and recreational stores and buy product and use those for their clinical tests, and say, here's what the market actually offers, as opposed to the hemp that they're growing in their government sanctioned facilities, where they're trying to grow weed in super humid conditions, and it's coming out basically as a hemp product at like 7 or 12% THC, which is, the kind of cannabis that you saw growing in the 40s and 50s, that there's nothing close to what we're dealing with now. Have you ever had the cannabis you're growing there with you? Have you ever been able to have that tested for its potency at a harvest?
Yeah, I haven't in a while, but I've ranged from 18 to 25 from that.
Right.
That was free.
Those are great numbers, man. Those are great numbers, And again, all those things have a 15%.
The strains, not so much the grower. It good
Oh,
strains.
right. That's a humble way to say it, right? But I'm gonna say, it's not just in the strain. It's in the soils you use. It's in the conditions that it's in. It's in the curing, and it's how you take care of it at the end, and how you finish it, and then how you store it as well. Those are all critical factors that, as the industry matures, man, we're going to see that more and more, just like we've seen it with all the alcohols that we love. And then even as alcohols continue to evolve and come out with different flavors and different products. We're going to see that with cannabis as well, and the crossbreeding and genetic profiles that people are going to start saying, this is from Silverton, Colorado, and I grew this genome and I crossed it into this and I've given it to no one else. And this is my Jack Daniels, right? And we're going to start seeing that happen where people are, Blue Dream is everywhere. And everybody has a strawberry kush and the big bud strain's been around forever. But I think those are all kind of meshed around, and they're being judged based on what the grower's naming them, or what the place but I think once we get people who are going to say, I've developed a strain and I'm going to keep it in-house and it's not going to leave, we're going to see some really great development and some consistency as the industry matures. Oh, man, I'm starting to fade here. My brain's starting to kind of ramble on, but so let me just ask Eagle, if let's do another 15-30 minutes here, and then we'll wrap it up. And I would love to come back on and talk with you again, and
that'd be awesome. Because when you were talking about earlier, where you're like, if you keep poking me, I'll go on until the 420 mark. Chad went, keep poking.
I've been up since.
There's actually still, I don't know if you can see chat, but there's actually 63 people currently in chat hanging out watching.
Oh, really? All right.
Not all bad. Yeah,
that's great. I can't see the chat. I'm trying to take my following that I built on. Well, I built the following on TikTok, right? Doing cannabis news. I was up to 45,000 followers, and I wanted to get to 50,000, and I had some violations, for talking about ganja or having pictures of ganja in my background. I had some videos taken down, and so I thought I'd be clever and do a live extraction. And they closed my account and kicked it all off. So I lost all my followers. So it was right when I wanted to try and start doing a podcast to go deeper into some of the articles that I get my news from, because they show up regularly. And so I'm rebuilding that. And I'd love to start doing more consistent reporting on what's going on in the news in each state, and see find another way to get more into the industry with Parler, and I'm sorry, not Parler, with TikTok, and what's the one that we met on? I'm spacing it right now. Clubhouse, yeah, and and then maybe even get some stuff on a podcast, and maybe even a YouTube scenario of getting news out there and doing more interactions with people, because I watch a lot of YouTube, and I definitely.
If you're interested, I'd be more than willing. I like the idea. You could be more than willing to have like a weekly show or whatever on this channel, news feed or whatever. That'd be totally cool. But just food for thought.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Willing to network with people. That's part of how you get places.
Well, yeah, the ability we have now to find and interact with people who are in the industry, who share similar views and just have stories to tell, like on Clubhouse, on YouTube, on podcasts. It's incredible compared to what we were. And I know people get tired of hearing this, but when we just didn't have that when I in the 80s and the early 90s, before the internet showed up. And even when the internet showed up, you're always like, I'm not writing that stuff down or talking about that stuff on there. It'll be there forever. But now, I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm totally licensed. I'm licensed up. I'm lawyered up. I've got nothing to hide. I've made this transition out of the trade into the industry, and it's been a good transition. There's some things I miss about both sides of it, some things that I miss, and some things that I don't. But the communication and the knowledge that's out there that we all have access to now as a shared conglomerate it's immense, and it's great to have just to even know that there's that much support out there of other people who are passionate about the industry and about the plant and about, being part of it.
By the way, Chad definitely likes the idea of a cannabis news type show, straight up cannabis news.
Well,
they like your idea, brother. They like your
cool.
idea.
Well, check it out. Let me see. I had to change the name of my channel, and I still forget it, bro. Can I say what it is? Can I do a selfless?
Fuck yeah, please do.
All right, cool. So, on TikTok, I am Canna News Solutions. So CANNANEWS Solutions on TikTok. And yeah, you can email me at yourcannabissolution at gmail.com. And I check those pretty regularly. And of course, you can always get in touch with me at info@sweetco2oil.com, because I'm on that every day. And you can check us out at, sweetco2oil.com. You can see what we're about and our product. I moved to Colorado with a passion for riding a mountain bike and skiing fresh powder. And a lot of that went hand in hand with a bag of weed and a bowl. So as I chased those passions and got into many more as far as mountaineering and all the sports that are involved in there, rock climbing never took for me really, but a lot of river sports, a lot of wind sports, all the skiing disciplines, snowboarding, telemarking, and alpine and Nordic. I just loved all that stuff so much. And now my kids are following in those footsteps on river trips and skiing as well. And we try to kind of reflect that. You'll see some of the pictures of friends of ours on mountaineering trips. Friends of ours grows in our local Southwest Colorado. All of our bud is on our website, and pictures are from our buddies of mine grows that we all went to college together here in Durango. So I'm really probably overly proud of that stuff, but that's really what you'll see on our website about what we're about. And we try to hold on to some of that environmental concern of trying not to, just the amount of plastic and the amount of energy use that we're producing. A lot of our farms here that are using candlelight sensors to turn on lights when it gets cloudy in their light depth greenhouses. A lot of them are buying their electricity from solar farms because we have 300 days of sunshine around here. So I'm a proponent of responsible growth. And even with your lights there, I think it would be, I'm guessing you have 2,000 watts that I can see in there. Is there more than two? Not that it matters, but
no, there's a 4K, and then there's another 4x8s that are all LEDs plus
oh, nice.
How
do you like the
plus,
LEDs for flowering? Can you give me a? Oh, okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
a little more back over that way. Actually, I sit in a big fucking circle of tents and do the show. So
Oh, that's awesome. So you go down, you're, and that's so that's your grow room, and it's lit up at night, and that's why. And so you're down there working basically and doing your show. Is that am I seeing that right?
yeah, basically, it is a day and night thing. Just because, well, these lights here do actually during wintertime heat the house. That summertime, they'll go out through the roof. Winter months, I'll pull that tent out and then I'll flip that fan over and then it pushes under the house in a wrap ducking all the way to the cold air return. And right before the furnace, it's piped into the cold air return where I've got some really nice number 10 filters that actually filter that air one more time and send that warm air through the house to help alleviate my bill a little bit. But so these run at night because at one point they were the hot light, and I live in northern Michigan, so no air conditioning.
Right.
Like summer nights here are right around 50 degrees, so I'm drawing out 50-degree air into a long room where I'm filtering it out, dumping it into the room. Staying pretty cool, 75 to 80 in this room, summertime temperatures. And then during the day, the plants that like it under the LEDs don't mind it a little bit hotter. So, when the sun's out and the room's a little bit more warmer, they're not so finicky to a little bit to 80, 85 temperatures. So I run half the tents, the LED tents run during the day, HPS at night because they prefer the cooler temperatures, and I try to balance it out a little bit. So all the work isn't in one time schedule. A little bit here, a little bit there. I
Yeah,
am a
man. That's
full-time caregiver, so this is what I do.
okay. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, good work doing the caregiving because that can be hard work and challenging. I know that my wife's an RN. She'll have her master's in nursing here shortly, and we definitely have some challenges in our immediate family as well, where we are not on full-time care, but we definitely have people we need to take care of and keep an eye on. Is that family that you're doing full-time care for? Are you a registered nurse, if you don't mind my asking?
Well, I'm a marijuana caregiver and
Oh, okay, duh.
say caregiver as well. My main cup of tea before I got into this was carpentry.
Okay,
And,
all right.
and I still do the carpentry. I was a high-end carpenter before. So now I just pick and choose a little bit more and then tend to stay towards the cannabis side of work. A lot easier on the body
Oh yeah.
than carpentry was. So it was
Oh,
a nice trade-off.
that's great. I'm sorry, man. I forgot. The whole caregiver idea has been out of my vocabulary for so long that it just went completely over my head.
Oh,
And
trust me, I've been embarrassed a couple of times well, not embarrassed, but when I talk to somebody and they're are a licensed caregiver, you know what I mean? So when I say I'm a caregiver, then, they ask that question, oh, so you're not a real caregiver, right? And I'm like,
yeah, I'm a cannabis caregiver. Right? And
yeah, 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 yeah.
strong quality cannabis is no easy job, man. I mean, I'll tell you, when we were running the store and people were just first starting to learn how to grow, and they come in and I'd just be like, you got to read the directions, man. It's on you told me what you did, and on page 2 it says not to do that. That is in bold print. It says not to do that, and you just told me that's what you did, right? I can't tell you how many people would have the idea that if 8 ounces is good for 50 gallons, then 16 ounces must be better. And you're like, and then they all turned yellow and died. And they're like, and then they all turned yellow and died. And you're like, read, or I went in there and I was buzzed and I had this idea, and everything died. And you're like, right, don't do that, you know? So good on you for being able to manage an indoor garden, which is twice as hard as running an outdoor garden, right? Have you ever had the how long has that light been on syndrome? That's one of my favorites from my history of, showing up and being like, that light's not supposed to be on right now. How long has that light been on? No wonder that side of the room is 18 inches too tall, So, and I'm not assuming that that's happened to anything. I'm just more reminiscent.
It has. Timers go out, man. Timers go out, man. They stick on, they stick off, man. That was the reason I went to a main box, to be honest with you. I had 220 boxes wired in, half on, day and night, eight game boxes each way. So, if it's out, they're all out, and it's noticeable. You know what I mean? Because I'm here all the time. So
yeah,
I try to alleviate some problems because they come up.
Well, and if you were as being in the carpentry, being a carpenter, you probably knew plenty of folks who are in the trade, so you could be like, "Hey, man, I need to wire this way," right?
Oh yeah, I definitely know some electricians and friends to help. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love cannabis, by the way. So, easy trade off.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, I am starting to fade. I don't know if you can.
Well,
But
I can't.
I would love to.
This has been a great conversation, man. I hope you do, man. Trust me, I haven't even really scratched the surface here. I'd like to hear, we've heard about the sweet CO2 oil, but I'd like to hear your story. When did cannabis, enter your life? All that good stuff. And and I have other questions about oil as well. So I'd like to get you back. So a couple of things before you go. I'd like to tell you how this works. On this channel, you can find 3 shows or versions of shows here. Of course, you can find the fucking talking shit with Eagle. That's the spotlights of the one-on-ones.
Right.
And then there is what I call now Weed Nerd World, and that is open up to all past guests. So you have to be a past guest to come hang out in Weed Nerd World. It is the very same Zoom link that I sent you. And so how the Weed Nerd Worlds work is Monday night, I take off the spotlights, and Monday night is a mandatory Weed Nerd World. So you can bank on if you ever want to come hang out, tell us something, whatever. Monday nights is always open for them to past guests. Any other night, like I told you before, it kicks off at 11:30, rolls to at least 4:20. Sometimes yesterday it went almost till 7 in the morning we went to. So nights like tonight where the guest doesn't take us the whole gauntlet, I'll shut this down, I'll take a break, and then I'll kick off Weed Nerd World. And then past guests come wandering in, and we finish off the night talking about cannabis. We talk about cannabis. We may talk about mushrooms. We may talk about conversation varies from night to night. It might even be just conspiracies, just having fun, smoking, talking about whatever. But if you're paying attention and it rings on your phone and it says Weed Nerd World, and we're talking about something that you want to talk about, or you just want to come hang out, you have the invitation. You don't need an invite. You're more than welcome anytime that you see Weed Nerd World in the title. Come hang out, brother. We've always got room for one more and some great conversation. I just want to throw that out there. It doesn't have to be a spotlight at this point. I would love another one-on-one. But at this point, you've earned your rights for Weed Nerd World. Come hang out anytime you want. The other thing I'd like to get from you is I do what I call the sound bite. So basically what that is like the old school radio identification where the artist would come on and be like, hey, this is such and such from, and I'm on my words. My version would be, hey, this is Eagle and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 507. You could put it anything before or after that. You can plug whatever, but this is kind of your episode for the show. This is the only portion that I kind of record, save myself some time. So whenever you're ready, my friend, I'd like to get your sound bite.
All right. Well, this is Forrest Jones with Talking Shit with Eagle on the Eagle, episode number 507. I'd like to give a shout out to the 507 PPOE in Durango, Colorado. And thanks for having me on. Talk some shit with Eagle.
Oh, yeah, man. Thank you again, man. I hope we can. That was perfect, brother. That was perfect, man. I'm looking forward to another round. So
Dude,
keep in touch whenever you're ready. I'm ready. So
507,
it's been a
bro.
great episode.
Hopefully,
Hopefully,
awesome.
I know a lot of these great. That's what it's there. That's your. You didn't realize that?
Well,
The 507.
I thought I heard it.
Episode?
Yeah, I thought I heard it at the beginning, but when you confirmed it there, I was like, all right, so that's the club where I'm in a leadership officer position at this drinking club. We're a drinking club with a charity problem, and I don't know if you're familiar with some of those old clubs like that, but that our lodge number is number 507 out of. So we're one of the early ones. There's like 2,300 across the U.S. And
how fucking coincidental is that?
I know. So yeah, and I've been involved with them for well over a decade, and we do a lot of really good things with the community. Again, for the children, God bless the children. We got to have them, right? And so, there's my back and forth about these goddamn regulations and how they're always using the children as why they're putting the screws to us and trying to squeeze blood out of turnips. So, but yeah, I'm getting tongue tied, Eagle, and I really appreciate you having me on. It was great to meet you, but I'm going to sign off, man. I've been up since 5 this morning. I had 6 soccer games this weekend, and I'm kind of whooped. So let me catch up with you again.
Now I feel guilty for not trying to meet you a little bit halfway, a little bit early.
It's great, man. I had a great. I'm having a great time, but I'll be back at the shop by 7 tomorrow morning, and yeah, I'm well.
Thank you for your time, bro.
It's my 5th decade here, so it wears on me more than it used to.
Keep that hustle going. We'll talk to you soon, man. This has been a lot of fun.
All right, right on, Eagle. Good hanging out with you.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
You too.
Well, you guys, that wraps up 507. Hopefully, I know you guys have enjoyed this. I've seen it in chat. So you guys know the routine at this point. We'll see you in Weed Nerd World, hopefully in a few minutes, no more than 15. But moreover, take time to do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. I am grateful for the opportunity to do this. I am grateful for tonight's guest. So thank you for tuning in. If you do not decide to jump over into the Weed Nerd World, I will see you tomorrow night, 2 a.m. for Weed Nerd World. And for the rest of you guys, I'll see you in Weed Nerd World in a few minutes. Have a good one. Thanks